Michel Landon was a very popular figure in television. His outstanding good looks couldn't be beat. He was the it guy in his time during the prime years of Bonanza, as well as an outstanding actor who could do drama, comedy, romance, action, often doing his own stunts. What could this man not do? We still enjoy episodes of Bonanza, especially those that feature him, often highest rated in the episode guide. We enjoy Little House on the Prairie, proving himself to be a phenom in the industry, to be able to produce, direct, act, and write episodes of the series. But I do not agree he had Capricorn rising. Now consider, all his life no one had a time on when he was born. 2 decades after the man is dead, someone's got a time. Really? Now, I don't know where this time came from, but if there was a time on Michel Landon, we certainly would have had it while he was still alive. So his mother died in the 80s, his father died in the late 50s. Where is this time coming from? Birth times were not recorded on birth certificates in 1936 when Michel Landon was born. There may have been a birth certificate, but it's not likely there was a slot for a birth time. By 1947, all states had to use the same birth certificate blank, and this one included a slot for the birth time. Of course, some states may have recorded birth times a bit before 1947, but everyone was doing it by 1947. Because no one had a time on Michel Landon all the time he was alive, it is unlikely even Michel Landon would have known what time he was born. So this Capricorn rising chart would have to be some sort of rectification, which is fine. If someone else can do it, I certainly can give it the old college try. For starters, let's look at Michel Landon's moon. This chart claims he had his moon in Taurus. Ah, but the moon changed signs that day. So did he have his moon in trusting, docile Taurus or fast-talking con artist Gemini?
Hey, Joey, he does look professional to me.
Who, him? He's all brains and no brawn. You'll murder him. He's never run into anything like you before.
You reckon?
We'll pin him. We'll flatten him. We'll literally rip him limb from limb.
Where are you getting that wee stuff?
Wait a minute. You think for 1 minute you'd be sitting here right now if it wasn't for me?
I reckon you're right, Joe. Thanks.
What are brothers for? You're in shape.
Joe, you don't reckon we're going off on the deep end of this whole idea?
You're not getting scared, are you?
No, I ain't scared, but that Burnett, you got me picking up everything and pushing and pulling everything on the ranch. I'm gonna be so pooped I can't get into Virginia City.
Boss, that's called conditioning. Conditioning.
Yeah.
Now, we've gone along with it this far, haven't we? With this training program? All right, just trust me a little bit longer.
Yeah. I'll let you do the managing, Joe, but it seems to me like I'm doing all the work.
Boss. Boss, I'm giving you half of my winnings, aren't I?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Oh, François, what are we to do?
I will think of something.
Come on, Joe. Let's go get a beer.
Do not worry your little head, sister. Excuse me, did you say the little lady was your sister? Mais certainement.
I would be delighted to have luncheon with you. If, Hoss will accompany us.
Oh, ma'am, I'd be happy to.
Hoss, did you get all that paperwork finished?
Yeah, darn it, I gotta get that done, too. Maybe I can join you later, ma'am.
Please do.
Yes, ma'am.
And don't you hurry now, Hoss. Because haste makes waste.
Thank you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, don't you run away.
Oh, I won't. Pa sent me to bring you home to supper.
That Burnett.
Joseph, stand up. Stand up. Now, did you know that he was a girl?
What? Oh, no, Pa. If you knew I knew a thing like that, I'd certainly tell you about it, wouldn't I?
I don't think you'd have told us. Joe, I'm gonna tear you limb from limb.
Howdy.
Tired in my life.
Yeah, I'm pretty tuckered out myself. Well, we did it, Pa. We did it. Every single one of those ties is off the mountain and at the spur. I knew I could do it if I put my mind to it.
Your mind.
Well, I must say, I never thought you could do it.
Oh, he did a real good job.
Pa, it's an unbeatable combination. Brains and brute strength.
Well, little Joe, in all fairness to your brain power, if it hadn't been for Hoss's muscle power, those ties would still be up on top of that mountain.
Yes, but without my conditioning, he wouldn't have had the muscles to pull the ties off the mountain. You can't win them all, Hoss.
Did you hear that? Snake Creek's got water in it. It's gonna be flooding. It's gonna be full, Joe. There's water in Snake Creek. Water.
Yahoo! There's water in Snake Creek. That's what we've been waiting for, Hoss. Yeah? Water in Snake Creek. You know what that means? That now you can enter the annual Snake Creek Canoe Contest. $1,000. $1,000.
$1,000? Wow.
And all you need is a good manager and a big, big canoe.
Yeah. $1,000. Wow.
Now, here's what I'm gonna do for you. Hoss, did you ever think we had a brother like that?
Outside of being dumb enough to listen to you two fellas, what kind of a fella am I?
The kind of fella who would turn down another fella after he'd stolen that fella's girl and he had a chance to do something about it, and this fella wouldn't do a thing about it. That's the kind.
The house. Folded inside the pages are my last will and testimony. Just in case something goes wrong.
Goes wrong? What do you mean goes wrong? I got a lot of plans made.
Plans?
Yeah, plans. Hoss, that professor makes a lot of sense if you just listen to him. You have to listen.
I did.
Well, then you must realize there's a tremendous future in this flying business. Tremendous. We'll make a fortune.
Flying?
Sure, flying. Look, after you make this first flight, Hoss, we make our own wings then.
For what?
For you! Hoss, I can rent you out all over this territory. I can rent you out for errands. I can rent you out for circuses.
Dirty, rotten, scheming little... You think I'd go through this again, risk my neck for money?
Well, why not? You're doing it today for nothing.
I think you'll agree that Landon comes across more like a mischievous, fast-talking con artist Gemini. Now, you can say, but that's what the script calls for. That's a little Joe script. Can you imagine Pernell Roberts delivering a script like that? Dan Blocker? So these dialogues and scenarios are given to actors that can deliver those scripts. You don't have to be that way in real life, but can you deliver that? Now let's digress a second. Robert Preston's signature role, the role of his lifetime, was that of a fast-talking con artist in The Music Man.
Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. Now, I know all you folks are the right kind of parents. I'm going to be perfectly frank. Would you like to know what kind of conversation goes on while they're loafing around that hall? They were trying out Bevo, trying out Q-Babs, trying out tailor-mades like cigarette fiends, and bragging all about how they're going to cover up a telltale breath with sense. And one fine night, they leave the pool hall, heading for the dance at the Armory. Libertine men and scarlet women and ragtime.
Did you know Robert Preston was a Gemini? And that he had his moon in Gemini? And those two planets were in conjunction, which only intensifies Gemini? And added to that conjunction was Jupiter in Gemini, a stellium of 3 planets conjunct in Gemini, with 2 of them being the all-important Sun and Moon. The moral to the story is, if you want someone to deliver a fast-talking con artist role, find someone with Gemini in him. These actors have to figure out how they're going to play a character and flesh him out. And by now, Michel Landon, as the mischievous brains behind the operation, get-rich-quick scheming con artist Little Joe, has this down to a science. So Michel Landon, in all likelihood, had his moon in Gemini, not Taurus. If you want to know what Taurus is all about, check out Hoss. So let's assume Michel Landon actually had his moon in Gemini, which completely invalidates the Capricorn rising chart. Now I will go even further and say, he looks like a Gemini. You know those Gemini good looks, those mischievous expressions. And you might say, well, maybe he had Gemini rising. And I would say, no, impossible. Michael Landon could never have Gemini rising, because Michael Landon was an introvert. So if he looks like a Gemini but doesn't have Gemini rising, what's left? If his ruler was in Gemini, and the only Gemini in his chart would be the moon, so therefore he must have had Cancer rising. And you would say, no, no, not common Cancer. Cancer is the answer. Yes, Cancer. A fast and loose rectification comes out Cancer rising. But anyway, the chart would look something like this. You can see the sun is conjuncting the 5th. He was an actor all his life, after all. But it's posited in the 4th. He was a good family man. Venus in the 5th. He loved children. Jupiter dignified in the 6th. Michael Landon wore a lot of hats, but the jobs would all be considered professional, such as writer, director, producer, actor. Jupiter dignified in the 6th. Saturn in the 9th. His main responsibility on Little House was the script, although I'm sure other writers wrote the scripts as well. Notice Saturn is in Pisces. He tended to write maudlin, melodramatic, schmaltzy, feel sorry for me type genre. He wrote about handicapped people, especially blind people. The chart shows Pluto rising in Cancer in the 1st. This is the generation of troubled youth. Movies about hoodlums and delinquents ruled the day, ever since James Dean. Is there any better astrological definition for troubled youth than Pluto in Cancer? James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause had a huge impact on actors of that generation. Elvis Presley said he wanted to be an actor just like that. It's possible I Was a Teenage Werewolf was one of the copycat movies of Rebel, because in Rebel, James Dean played a troubled youth in high school, and in Werewolf, Michael Landon played a troubled youth in high school. Rebel came out in 1955, and Werewolf came out in 1957. And it may be producers were looking for a James Dean sort of actor for the Little Joe role, because didn't he represent troubled youth in Western times? Did you know that Robert Blake was also considered for that role? Now, Cancer and Gemini, two adjacent signs, have something in common, and that is youth. So Cancer rising with the ruler in Gemini could easily produce a man with boyish good looks. Not manly handsome looks, but boyish good looks. If you want someone manly handsome, try Capricorn rising. Michael Landon represented youth on Bonanza. He was the youngest of the brothers, the shortest, which subtly hints at youth, and even the name Little Joe smacks of youth.
Allow me to present myself again, Miss Joe Cartwright at your service.
Cartwright? Well, that's your name.
Sad but true, blood is thicker than water. He's my older brother. Much older. Now, look.
Michael Landon had the squat face. Some people call it a moon face. It's a face that's as wide as it is tall. We call these people cute because they have the same facial dimensions as that of a baby. A baby's face is as wide as it is tall. Landon also had the low forehead that can be common with Cancer rising when they're good-looking. But the last thing I would really like to point out for your consideration is the crying thing. Cancer is the crybaby of the zodiac, and we all know how Michael Landon could cry.
Do you know how many times I've come back to this mountain just to get my rifle? How many times I've stood in front of it and cried because I'm afraid? And I just don't know why.
Now, I want to show you some Cancer rising actors who have cried in public. Here is Cancer rising Ben Affleck after his divorce from Cancer rising Jennifer Garner.
What's taught me is how important it is for me to be sober now during these formative years for my kids.
He says his mother was his rock, but as his family broke apart, he vowed never to repeat it.
What was the hardest thing for you to be honest with yourself about?
That I was going to get divorced. That I never thought I was going to get divorced. I didn't want to get divorced. I didn't want to be a divorced person. I really didn't want to be a split family with my children. And it upset me because it meant I wasn't who I thought I was. And that was so painful and so disappointing
You can hear the crying in his voice. And here is Cancer Rising Jennifer Garner.
Yes, it was. There's just nothing like, sharing the spotlight or anything else with your sisters and your mom.
Oh, I can so relate to that, because there's something about when you're in these jobs where you get to do those fun things and you get to share it and say, hey, Mom, want to get your hair and makeup done? Is that how you felt about it?
Yes, it's always fun for me to get my sisters dolled up.
Yeah.
And my mom.
Let's look at Cancer Rising Mackenzie Phillips.
Your father is supposed to protect you, not you.
So, that's what I found pretty shocking. And as you all...
Water signs rising have a talent for crying in the movies. Pisces rising, Demi Moore, could cry on cue. Jim Carrey, with Scorpio rising, said he had given up on giving wedding toasts because he starts blubbering, as he puts it. Yes, the feelings well up from within, and he can't get through a toast without breaking down. Now, what about Michel Landon? Does he get choked up in public? Someone asked Michel Landon, how does he prepare when he is required to cry for a shoot? And he said, all I have to think about is Dan Blocker. Here is a clip where Michel Landon is answering questions from the audience, and Dan Blocker's name comes up.
Good.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. It's the first door on the right.
Was he always mean and as big as he was made up to be?
Danny was the most super guy you'd ever want to meet. Dan Blocker, that played Hoss Cartwright, was just a sensational guy, and I think the best actor in the series, one of the best actors in the world.
But thousands of these letters that said, why did you let her die? They were so upset. You brought out something kind of interesting last night. It was like when you were explaining to us.
Well, the thing with the show is that when we started back on the last year after Dan had passed away, no one really wanted to do a show that was action or that was funny. What we really needed was a catharsis personally. When you love somebody, it's very difficult.
Notice how his voice broke? He started getting choked up? Yeah, he was an emotional man.